5 seconds to go. Start. At the first instance, the learned counsel for the appellants strongly argued that there was perversity and illegality involved in the decision rendered by the tribunal, which was affirmed by the High Court. It was also argued on behalf of the appellants that a fair and reasonable opportunity of hearing was afforded to the respondent and the charge sheet did not suffer any discrepancy as it sufficiently enabled the respondent to defend his case. Furthermore, it was contended that the charges framed were not vague and were serious cases of misconduct. It was further argued that the tribunal and the High Court had appreciated the evidence wrongly, and it would not be in the interest of appellant company to keep a workman who has developed the habit of abusing superiors with filthy language and disobeying their orders. Accordingly, the learned counsel for the appellants prayed for setting aside the judgment of the High Court as well as of the Industrial Tribunal and restoration of the order of dismissal passed against the respondent. The learned counsel for the respondent contended that the respondent was denied a fair hearing and was dismissed in violations of the principles of natural justice. It was argued on behalf of the respondent that the charge sheet did not contain the specific abusive language and thus it was difficult for him to defend his case. He further argued that the respondent was not furnished with the list of witnesses and copy of the documents to be treated as evidences and materials on which the management was to rely, and he was also denied a chance of being represented by a lawyer or a representative who is equipped with legal background during the inquiry proceedings. Learned counsel for the respondent also contended that the appellants had not presented before the court any documentary evidence to prove that he had on earlier occasion misconducted himself and was thus in a habit of disobeying his superiors. The learned counsel also strongly argued that the work assigned to the respondent was not part of his duty as he was appointed to carry things from one place to another outside the shop. Finally, the learned counsel for the respondent argued that since the concurrent findings of fact arrived at on the question formulated herein above, it is not open to this court to exercise its discretionary power under Article 136 of the Constitution to interfere with the impugned order on such concurrent findings of fact. Let us first delve into the most crucial question raised in this appeal, that is, whether there was violation of principle of natural justice. Principle of natural justice is attracted whenever a person suffers a civil consequence or a prejudice is caused by him by an administrative action. In other words, principle of natural justice is attracted where there is some right which is likely to be affected by any act of the administration, including a legitimate expectation. The second appeal has been dismissed by the Board of Revenue by the impugned order on 11th May 2011, holding that no substantial question of law was involved, and accordingly the orders dated 31st March 2011 and the order dated 27 December 2008 were upheld. The proceedings arose out of a suit under Section 176 of the UPZA and LR Act for partition. The dispute further indicates that it centers around the property acquired under the sale deeds, wherein the respondents plaintiffs claimed equal shares to the extent of 1/7 share each, whereas the petitioners defendants contend that apart from the land under the sale deed dated 10th May 1988, where the shares have been indicated as 1/7 each, the share of the other parties, which was subject matter of different sale deeds brought on record through a short counter affidavit, have to be distributed by allocating 1/8 share to the contesting respondent numbers 1 to 3, whereas the petitioner numbers 4, 5, and 6 are entitled to 1/6 share each. The trial court proceeded with the matter, and from the order sheet it appears that the plaintiff's witnesses were being cross examined. The order sheet dated 20th September 2008 indicates adjournments of the case on the ground of further cross examination of the plaintiff's witnesses, and the date fixed was 25th September 2008. Learned counsel for the petitioner, Sri S.K. Pawar, contends that the dispute which was raised with regard to the shares could have been decided and adjudicated only after the cross examination of the plaintiff's witnesses was completed, but without proceeding with the same and only fixing dates on the application. The suit was decreed on 27th December 2008, which prejudices the claim of the petitioners. He further submits that the petitioners have been denied the opportunity of cross examination, and the trial court hastily proceeded to decree the suit, depriving the petitioners of the opportunity of putting the witness to cross examination on that issue. A short counter affidavit has been filed by Shri Anupam Kulsrestha, learned counsel, appearing on behalf of the respondents contesting herein, namely respondents number 4 to 7. He contends that the sale deeds that are being made the basis of the claim of the petitioner's defendants do not indicate any specified share, and therefore a presumption in view of the provisions of section 92 of the Indian Evidence Act is to be made that the plaintiffs and the defendants all had equal shares in the land which are subject matter of the sale deeds, and hence the dispute which is now sought to be raised by the petitioners is purely unfounded, and proceedings are being pursued on a very highly technical ground. He contends that as a matter of fact the petitioners are trying to take undue advantage of the absence of one of the brothers of the answering respondents, and the shares were very well known at the time of execution of the sale deed, which also stands corroborated by the sale deed dated 10th May 1988, whereby 1/7 share has been indicated in respect of all the parties. Stop.